time, weather, and always class.
Breath control and bad decisions. It's our game. With Gen X and Salty J, we'll shout it loud. A celebration of life. Come join the crowd.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming back for another episode of Breath Control and Bad Decisions. I'm here, Julie, Salty J, and we also have.
From Gen X.
Hey, so remember when getting a job at 15 wasn't considered child labor?
I
It was
do.
like,
It was considered required.
yeah, and character building, but definitely required. I feel like, they had us running deep fryers and trash compactors and cash registers and we had to be like emotional support for all the angry boomers. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's like, here's some really hot oil. I want you to work this machine. Wait, what? I'm a kid. I don't work
yeah,
stuff like this in my house, for God's sake. My parents don't let me near the stove at my house because I'm irresponsible, and you want me to work a hot oil fry.
my kids, they had like, video tutorials, like little classes they take on the computer. We just got like a mop and a manager that rolled his
Yeah.
eyes, pointed at stuff, and walked off. So it was definitely very different to me.
Yeah, there's no onboarding. That wasn't even a term then. It was you submitted your application, you did your one interview, not a million, and then you got hired for your $3.35 an hour.
How'd you get hired for your first job?
Let's see. I feel like somebody I knew was working there to get me so I could be like, "Hey, and I'm pretty sure it was one of my friends worked at Spencer's. It
That's
was one of
cool.
my brother's friends, I think, and I was like, I need a job, and I wanted to work there. So I've never worked food service. I've never was never a server. I never worked fast food. I went from Spencer's to record stores, and that was just kind of my trajectory. That all kind of fits with my personality. It's just how I went. So he was working there. I put my application in. He gave it to the manager, who was the 24-year-old manager who was, married with 2 children, and I interviewed with her and I got the job. I was still in high school, and that was how I got my first job, and I was paid $3.35 an hour because that was minimum wage, and at the time, you're like, "Woohoo, I'm making $3.35 an hour. I am rich, bitch."
Well, you got paid? No.
Yeah. Wait, you guys got paid?
I I started working at about 4 or 5 years old when I asked for my first rabbits, and my dad decided we needed like 200 of them. So,
Cool, sure, that seems like the natural path. You want a rabbit? Let's get 200.
yeah, so I had business cards made up. It said Bunny Master, and we would sell them to all the college students at Florida State, and they could keep them in the dorms because they're quiet and you could litter
Yeah.
box train them. So I started out as an entrepreneur and I was pretty good at it. Like if people really liked a rabbit, I would be like, that one's my favorite. And then they would give me more money. So my dad would send me out by myself to sell the rabbits.
What a
Um,
shithead.
I know. And then he would like keep all the profit. He'd be like, I'm better than a bank. So yeah. Then then we started a tow truck service when I was 13 called American Eagle. We towed half of Tallahassee, so a lot of people probably didn't like me, because it's a college town. But I did not get paid well for that either. That's why I was like, you got paid? That one
Well,
was
that
pretty
'cause
stressful.
that was a family-run business, so, yeah,
Yeah.
you got paid? No, you weren't gonna
Yeah.
get paid for that was expected of you.
Yeah, I got a Honda Prelude from the wrecker service that I didn't have to buy. Like we towed
Oh,
it
there you
and
go.
nobody picked it up and it was really nice. So, there was pluses and minuses, but wrecker drivers are not the best people to grow up around and that's probably why I have a foul mouth sometimes.
Well, I don't have an excuse then 'cause I did not grow up in that environment.
But my first to me real job, like job I chose or picked out, they had just opened up a Hungry Howie's on Florida State. Well, not on Florida State campus, but right next to it, Pensacola Street. And I
Uh-huh.
remember just going in and saying, "Are you guys hiring? This looks fun." And they said, "Yeah, fill out this application." And I can remember being so scared because, you had to write those in pen. You couldn't do it in pencil. And I was like, okay, it has to look neat. I can't mess up anything or cross anything out. You know, like I had to try to have it all detail
The
oriented.
fear you have, right? You're now as an adult in retro, you look back at that and you're like, nobody cared. You just needed to fill it out and be able to
Right.
show up on time. And you're
Yeah.
right. We were filling out these applications with such precision, and you wanted to make sure your penmanship was perfect and they could read everything and everything was perfect. So you were displaying that you were responsible and intelligent and you could handle the job.
Yeah.
I can handle the job of pouring somebody a soda.
Fixing a pizza. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that was my first well, you know what? No, it was my first job. After that, I had the pleasure of working at the Great American Cookie Company with my best friend since preschool, and that was probably my favorite. I can't believe you didn't do food service at all.
I touched on it momentarily. I was working there was at one point in time, I actually had 3 jobs, and one of them was I worked in a pizza joint in a mall food court, so it wasn't a pizza joint proper, it was we made pizza, served it by the slice, and that was get your pizza and get the hell out of my get out of my little space
Was
here,
that the
my little corner.
Sbarro's pizza?
No, it was just a local just it was a local pizza chain that was they had a stand in the mall,
Gotcha.
and I didn't work that job for very long. It was just like, "I wanna make some more money. I'm gonna go get a 3rd job because 2 wasn't enough." And I was like 18, 19 by this point. I worked that job briefly. I think I worked there for like a month, and the I don't know if she was the owner of that particular franchise in the mall. I don't know how that worked anyway, but she would always show up with her friend, and they would just come in and, like, get food, just get free food and sit out in the food court and eat it and then bitch about all of us working. This person didn't do this or this person do that. Like, I had a ring that I used to wear on my behind my first knuckle of my index finger, so, like, right here, and I got fired for wearing that ring.
Oh, so you got fired from a job?
Yeah, I got fired from that job for having that ring because she was like, "Well, what's that ring?" I said, "It's a ring." She's like, "Well, I don't want it to fall off in the food." I'm like, "I don't make food." I'm like, "We
Oh
don't
my
make the food
gosh.
here because we're just
Server.
the dough is already prepared. We take a ladle and put sauce on it, and we take a measuring cup scoop and put cheese on it, and it goes in the oven, and that's with a pizza peel. I'm not physically touching anything, and anything that I do physically touch, I'm wearing a glove or gloves, depending on if I'm using 2 hands or 1. I'm my hands are protected. I just think she didn't like me. I don't know what her issue was because
Probably.
she fired me and another girl who, I got to be friends with. She was a little bit younger than I was, and, she fired both of us for stupid reasons and then just had, like, a staff full of dudes. So, I mean, you do that math, you figure that one out, but I didn't work there for very long. That was my sole food service job, and yeah, it was fine. I remember one of the guys that I worked with, a lady came in. We were getting ready to close because it was inside of a mall, so we were getting ready to close, and she came in or came to the counter and ordered I don't remember what the hell she ordered, and we were out because it was 5 minutes to closing, so we didn't have a whole lot, and the guy was like, "Well, we only have this and this," and she started yelling at him, and she had really short hair, and he called her sir, and she lost her fucking mind.
It's a ma'am.
Oh,
It's
she
a ma'am.
lost her goddamn mind. I was like, "Wow." And he was younger than I was the oldest person that worked there I think I was 19. I was the oldest person that worked there, but it wasn't, like, my main job, so I didn't give a shit. I'm like, this is not my fight. I am not a manager here. I do not give a flying fuck about this. I'm just gonna sit back and watch how this plays out." And she was just nasty, and the hell of it is I believe she was a paramedic too, and I was like, "Wow, what a bitch." Jesus.
Hope she
Good
doesn't respond to
God.
my call. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Wow, what a hateful bitch." Like, I mean, she read this poor kid up and down because we didn't have what she wanted because she was there at 8:55, and he was like, "We have this and this, and that's all we have left," and she was like, "Well, you can make some," and he goes, "No, ma'am, we can't. That's not really how," whatever. Anyway, she was a bitch. So that was my one food service job.
Fire.
Everything else was, Spencer's was my favorite because we had so much fun. We had we had so much fun. I'm probably like your Hungry Howie's job where you just had a lot of fun. It was just fun because we were all friends, and if Spencer's was a fun place to work. Now, I know that Spencer's of today is a hell of a lot different than Spencer's of the '80s. It's way different. There's
Definitely.
uniforms and a whole different everything that they sell is a little, it's different, and it's just a completely different animal. And we wore whatever we want when we just couldn't wear jeans, but we wore whatever the hell we want. And during Christmas time, we used to sell do you remember the slippers? The big, like, the barefoot
Oh,
slippers
yeah.
or the dog we used to
Oh,
sell
yeah.
those, and so throughout the layout of the store, we would be positioned in the store, and we would be wearing them to try to sell people these slippers, but they were also really fucking comfortable. I was like, "Wait, I don't have to wear heels for an entire 8-hour shift. This is great." So, I got to wear slippers during that time. We were guilty of during the holidays, and we were so busy, we never had time to eat. And food that we would sell, like the popcorn tins,
Yeah.
we would purposefully open them so we could put them back in the damaged department in the stockroom so we could eat. So it's
That's
like,
cool.
"I'm starving, somebody go break open a popcorn tin and then call it damaged so we can eat it." That's what we did, like, that was how we ate. We would bust open food products and claim they were damaged so they could go into the damaged area of the stockroom, and then we would eat. Like, we had do you remember the stress thing that you could stretch it all the way out? It was like a Stretch Armstrong, but like
Yeah.
it was more
Yeah.
squishy. We wanted to know what was in it, so we damaged it so we could put it in the damaged pile, and then we cut it open so we could see the goo inside.
See the
We were
insides.
terrible employees. We were terrible employees. Our shrink had to have been outrageous because we also stole a lot. So our shrink was through the roof. I'm certain of this, but I mean,
I
it
had
was a fun place to work.
Well, I had one job that I probably should have been fired from, and it was totally wrong what I did. I didn't even really get in trouble, except for my manager hated me from that day. But I worked at a Walmart Tire Lube Express. This was in Tallahassee, so we'd even sell like super swamper tires where everybody would go mudding, and it
Yeah.
wasn't that fun of a job. I don't think I even worked there that long. It was boring. Everybody was pissed off their car was taking too long, and everybody in the bays were fucking around laughing, taking too long. And that's probably still the same, but,
Probably.
our
Probably
our
that hasn't
manager
changed.
yeah, our manager, Mark, he was, like, kinda short, he had this like, his head was so big, it just was bigger than his whole body. He was leaving one day, and this was at Walmart, and I called a code Adam on him, and I said,
Oh, you were
"Answers
telling
to
me
the
about
name
that.
Mark." Yeah,
Yes.
wearing a striped polo, khaki pants. He came back, he looked like that big old head was gonna pop, he was so pissed. Like, I think they actually blocked him from leaving the store for a second
Yeah,
because of the
that's
code
what that
Adam.
code does. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
That's what
probably
that
really
does.
should have been fired for that because
At the very
I
least, you should have been written up.
yeah, but I know better now. I would never try to take advantage or not want somebody to take a child kidnapping seriously, so I would never do that again, and I would advise
I
people not
learned
to do
I
it.
learned my lesson that day. I'm very contrite.
Yes, but the job I did get fired from, I really felt like I didn't deserve it, and that was the Great American Cookie Company at the mall, and that's where I worked with my best friend. We had that manager like you were talking about. He was, like, older than us, but not that much, but Jabin, and we would all joke around. He threw me in the trash can, and my hands and feet were up in the air, and I could not get out, and I was like, "Help, help," and then they would push you out in the hallway, like, just dumb stuff. There was this girl, I think her name was Monique, but this was, like, really popular back then, like, on soap operas and stuff where there was, like, false twins. Like,
Mhm.
we watched All My Children, and somebody always had a twin that you didn't know about coming into the show. Well, she had a false twin. I think her name was Simone. I might have it wrong, but I think it was Monique and Simone. So, like, guys would come up trying to talk to her, and then the next time they come up, she'd act like she didn't know him and be like, "Oh, you must have been talking to my twin sister." So she would totally just mess with him, and,
That's just brilliant.
it was fun. It was so fun, and, I ended up Jabin had a friend that worked at some clothing store down the hall, and he would give him cookies sometimes. So one day Jabin wasn't there, and the guy came up and asked for a cookie, and I gave it to him, and apparently he was a secret shopper setup from our manager, and I got fired for giving him a cookie,
Was it the same
and
guy? This was the same guy that your manager had been giving cookies to, or this was
yeah,
totally
yeah, yeah.
Wait, so your manager had been giving cookies to this guy,
Oh,
and then
so
he set him up as a secret shopper? Like, what the hell? I'm trying to
so
follow here.
Dave was like the district manager or complete store manager, and Jabin
Mhm.
was the one that was always there with us. So Dave is the one that fired me and saw me give away a cookie, but
Okay,
I was
okay.
following Jabin's lead. So I actually messaged Jabin and Kelly and Nisa, all friends that I worked with there, and said, "Am I remembering this all right?" And they were like, "Yeah." You are. And I was like, was I a good employee? And Jabin was like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I think I
I
was, but
I mean, it's a cookie. It's one freaking cookie. That's a write up. That's you come in and you say, "Hey, you're not supposed. You can't be giving away the food. We have rules against that, and I'm gonna write you up." That's not fireable. It's one freaking
yeah.
cookie. Well, unless it was like the cookie, the big giant,
No.
the big giant
No.
one that people got. But so
I think
you're just
Kelly
you're
got
just out
fired
there
too.
for what? What'd she get fired for?
I think giving away a cookie.
Giving away a cookie? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Because at the end of the
And I
night,
don't
I
know what happened with
remember
Nisa.
I remember we had a Great American Cookie Company in the mall down the way from Spencer's, and I remember at the end of the night, we would all go down there and be like, "What did you not sell?"
Yeah.
And they would load us
Yeah.
up. They'd be like, "Oh, these are gonna go in the trash, so you guys can take these." I mean, it was an every night thing when we were working, at night. It was like we can get to go to the cookie company and go get cookies because
Maybe we just
it's
giggled too
8.50.
much and got on his nerves. Like, can you
Maybe he
imagine
was just
being
an
around little
asshole.
16-year-old girls at all time?
No,
Well,
maybe he was just an
you know
asshole.
you know how the universe kinda comes back around?
Yes.
Well, then I was working for a nonprofit agency for the state, and the guy that delivered the coffee comes in, and it was Dave, the one that fired me.
Yeah.
So, he was bringing in our office coffee, and I hope he's still
Aw.
selling coffee. Yeah.
Did you ask him
Yeah.
if he would give
So
it to you for free?
no, I should have.
You should've.
Yeah. I just was like, "How's the coffee business, Dave?"
I understand that coffee goes really good with cookies.
It does.
It does.
We did do some asshole things, like, when people were overweight and they'd come order, like, 2 dozen cookies, we would always say, "Was that a Diet Coke you wanted?" Like, little digs like that, you know.
Teenagers they're so mean. I mean,
Oh, we're
we didn't have
assholes.
anything like, we couldn't do it. There wasn't anything like that at Spencer's we could do it with them. We had our adult section, which is great when you're a teenager and you have to stock the 18 and over section and then try to explain things to people, which was like, "No, I cannot explain this to you, ma'am. You're older than I am, and you should sure as fuck know what this is." And I remember Spencer's stores had mirrors all the way. They went the entire length of the store on the ceiling. And that the reason for that is so we could be at any place in the store and look up and see what the hell was going on in the store. We could watch shoplifters, we could just see what the hell was going on. I am so still to this day, I am so used to those mirrors being on the ceiling in stores that when I'm in a store anywhere and I hear a noise, I instinctively look up.
Oh, you miss
'Cause I'm like,
it.
What was that noise?" And then I'm like, "Why doesn't every store do this?" It was really genius at the time, but it hasn't been until recently that it's really kind of resonated with how much that instilled in me that it's such a reflex action now. It's the same with when I hear our stock door, the door to go back into the stock room had a bell on it, and it was so if we were
Yeah.
back there, we knew if somebody was coming in, or if we were up front, we knew if somebody was coming out, and we could watch that door to see if anybody was, but it was also if we were fucking around at the front part of the store and we heard that door, we could look up to see who was coming and see if it was a manager and then be like, "Oh, it's just Jeff. No big deal. He doesn't care." It was the stop fucking around bell.
When you had to answer phones at your job, did you remember having, like, really long things you would have to say when you picked up the phone?
Certain stores. So Spencer's, no, we would usually just answer at Spencer's or Spencer Gifts. When I worked in the record stores, back in the late 80s, early 90s, you could pre-order new releases, so you could make sure you got a copy. And so we would have to answer the phone. Thank you for calling Musicland, where you can pre-order the new whatever album. You can pre-order the new Warren album. Or you could, and it got to be ridiculous. Where it was like, oh my God, somebody's just looking for a tape. They don't give a shit about pre-ordering an album. But those were things we had to say, and we had to say them because there's always a chance that somebody from corporate might call, and if you didn't say
Yeah.
it, you'd be in trouble. But
I feel like it's much shorter these days, but I remember just having, like, a script. I know that we said, like, "Thank you for calling the Great American Cookie Company at Governor Square Mall. This is Julie. How may I help you?"
that's so
I remember
that's so
that.
long. Bitch, do you sell
Or
chocolate chip cookies? That's all I want to know.
right. Or at Hungry Howie's, you would ask if they wanted a flavored crust, and then you're like, butter cheese, garlic, Cajun, sesame seed, poppy seed, or rye. Still remember that shit. But I
I
seriously can't
feel
remember what I had for breakfast.
That's one of the reasons that I feel bad for servers when they go to a restaurant and there's, like, there's a table of you and you're all ordering and everybody's ordering a salad, and everybody doesn't listen to the first person ordering a salad when they ask the dressings, and the server lists off 8 in absolute perfection, and then the next person orders a salad and they're like, "What kind of dressing?" I'm like, "What do you have?" I'm like, and I literally do. I go, "Were you not just listening? Person standing up here, they're telling you how many fucking salad dressings I have. Pay attention. Fucking pay attention. It's salad. I feel like you know what kind of salad dressings exist by this point in your life." Like, I don't know why that little thing aggravates me. It just does, and I have never been a server, but that is one thing that annoys me so much when I go out to dinner and there's more than 2 of you and nobody fucking listens. I just get
Yeah.
pissed, and before when anybody asks a question that's already been answered, I will always, if they ask it, I will immediately just jump in and go, "He already answered that. She already said that. It's this, 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 and this. Open your fucking ears." I'm just such an asshole. I hate it. It's so annoying because I just feel like it's rude. Just fucking pay attention when they're talking. That's all I'm asking you to do. That's their job.
Yeah.
They were asked what this was. They told you, and now you're asking the exact same fucking question. Pay attention, for God's sake. So like those little things kind of bother me. And having never been a server, it's just when you work in a customer facing role, regardless of what it is, those little annoyances kind of set in, and you're like, I will always defend these people. Like, it's the same with, I don't like it if you go to a store and you don't talk to the person. Like, you don't, if the red cashier says hello and you don't greet them or you don't say you don't respond, like, fucking talk to them. They're human
Yeah.
beings. Fucking talk to them. Acknowledge that they exist, please. That bothers me. But we didn't have a script at Spencer's because there really wasn't anything that nobody's clamoring for novelty items. Nobody's going, I gotta call Spencer's and see if I could pre-order something. No, nobody's clamoring for
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But
Foot Locker we
we
did.
we had so much fun there. We had a game called Pass Out, and it was a board game, and it was a drinking game, obviously. And I remember we took it home one night after closing, and we brought it to my friend Jeff's house, who worked there, and we also stole the laser show that we used to sell. We didn't steal them. We brought them both. We brought them all back. But we brought the
Borrowed.
Pass Out game and the laser show to Jeff's house, and we got hammered, spilled a bottle of wine on the Pass Out game, and then we got high and we set up the laser show to the stereo, and we laid on the floor and watched the laser show. And then when we had to work the next day, we brought it back in, and then we put the Pass Out game in the damaged goods because it had booze spilled all over. We're like,
Oh,
that's damn.
God.
But
God.
it was like, well, this is research. We can tell people how these things work and if they're good or if they're worth the money. And like, that was how we validated doing shitty things. And we weren't great employees in that regard, but we were great employees in that we were fun and we had a good time, and we didn't cotton to nobody stealing our shit except for us.
The only stealing type thing I did, it was usually my manager asking me to do it. At Hungry Howie's, we would call restaurants and trade. So it was so funny. I'd call like Red Lobster and say, "Hey, do you want to trade some pizzas?" And I'd like have the delivery driver go take them pizzas and bring back lobsters or
Oh, that's
steaks
a fair
or
trade. Totally
yeah,
fair trade.
I would get the best stuff, ice cream or we got high all the time there because it was all Florida State students I worked with. We'd go in the freezer, so the food was probably extra good because we would always like hot box the freezer.
Yeah.
But so there was this guy Craig that always had it. He was the one that cut the pizzas, and they actually, I guess, thought that I was stealing money from my register, and so they put up cameras. I didn't know this until after the fact, but it was my manager stealing it. So I think that trading the food was probably considered theft, but I was told to do it and then given that cookie, and then otherwise, I don't think I've ever taken anything from work
Yeah.
ever. Well,
That was Spencer's with it. We never I never it never nobody would even think about stealing money out of the till. Like, that wasn't even on the list
yeah,
of
that
things to do.
was
That was, no, you don't fucking take money, dude. Like,
I
you don't
was
do
really
that.
hurt that they thought it was me, but I
I
understand it
don't
was my register that was short, but
Yeah. Well, so when I was 20 or 21, I was working at a different record store, and the store had a really high shrink rate, and it had a really high shrink rate because it still had 8-track and record browsers, and they never
yeah.
updated them. So we couldn't put cassettes in a safety thing because they didn't fit in the browser. So everything was loose. You could just pocket a cassette. And so I set up what we would do when we would get new shipment in is I would take a straight razor and I would slice open the shrink on the part of the cassette that opens, and I would
Yeah.
slide a sticker in there, a security sticker, and then put the cassette. You couldn't tell it was open. It was just had a little slit in there, and I would slide
Right.
that thing in there. So we did that for the area that of the area of where all of the shrink was. We knew what was getting stolen, and we did that, and we were stopping shit left and right, but we were told by not our DM, but by our regional manager that we couldn't do it because it looked like
Yeah.
it was racist and we were targeting people. I'm like, I'm targeting what's getting stolen.
Yeah. It's
I
whoever
can't help
takes
that
it.
it's this type of music, but that doesn't mean it's a racist
Right.
thing. Everybody likes music, so go fuck yourself.
Right.
I
If
just
the
don't I don't
country
want
album is the most popular,
That's what I
that's
said.
what's
I
gonna
said if it
go. If
was
it's
if it
rap, that's
was
what's gonna go.
Right. I said if country was popular in this area, that's what would be being stolen, and that's what I would have tags in, but it's not. Country doesn't sell in the store, doesn't even move, for God's sake. I'm like, this is what's popular. This is what the kids are taking. I can't help that. I'm trying to stop it because you won't upgrade the fucking fixtures in here. We're still using 8-track and record browsers, for God's sake. And it was shortly after that that I got a corporate job, and I'd put my notice in, and my store had always I had certificates for our register was never 1 cent above or below, ever. It was
Right.
always almost right on the money, and so I had certificates in my office of that, and as that was the store that I managed, or one of the stores that I managed that was another store that I managed, let's just say that, along my progression of jobs and of music store jobs, and I put in my notice, and I didn't think anything of it. And then the following weekend, my assistant manager called me at home on a Sunday morning, and he's like, "Somebody broke into the store last night." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Somebody broke into the store." And I said, "Was anything missing?" He goes, "No, but there's shit out of whack. You put this on you were writing this thing on this note for the next day for what needed to be done, and then you put the pen here, and that's how we left it." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "That note's gone, and the pen is moved." He said that the note is
Hmm.
actually off of the pad and is next to it, and the pen isn't on the pad, so that had been moved. And he said, he said, and the gate, the store was kind of on a corner. So I had two gates. I had this gate and this one. Well, this one, the lock on the left side of it didn't work properly. So if you
Yeah.
didn't get it directly in the slot, you could just open that gate up. And we all knew it, and we had reported it many, many times, and they never fixed it. Well, that gate was open. It was unlocked. He said when he went to open it, he just tugged on it to make sure it was still locked from the night before. He goes, and it just popped right open. So I called my DM and I was like, "What in the hell? Somebody broke into the store last night. There's shit that's askew. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm not real happy about it." And so she said that it was her. She was on her way to the U2 concert and she had to pee, so she stopped at the mall to use my store bathroom. And I was like, "Okay, so you're telling me that this is what happened. You were on your way to the U2 concert in South Jersey, so you stopped at my store, and I worked at Seaview Square Mall, and my store is right across from the public bathrooms. So you chose to open up and unlock the gates to the store to use the bathroom in the store instead of the public bathrooms that are right across the mall from it. Like, you have to pass those bathrooms to get to the store." And she kind of paused and she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay." And I said, "That's interesting. All right." So I didn't buy her story. Obviously, a couple hours had gone by, and then I get another phone call and it's from her and she's crying. And I was like, "What is going on?" And she said, "I was forced to tell you that story." I'm like, "Obviously." She said, "I was forced to tell you that because the loss prevention manager was in your store last night placing cameras." And I was like, "Okay, well, why didn't anybody just tell us that they were putting cameras in the store? Because we know we have a high shrink. We know that we would have been fine with
Yeah.
that. You could have told us that." I said, "Also, Mr. Loss Prevention Manager left my fucking gate unlocked all goddamn night." I said, "So anybody
Mm.
could have just come in and wiped out the entire goddamn store." I said, "So maybe tell Loss Prevention Manager Charlie that he left my gate unlocked all goddamn night too." So Monday I went in and Barbara showed up. She was the DM, and Charlie, the loss prevention manager, came in. I was there and Brian was there. Brian was my assistant manager. And they both came in and Charlie was like, "Well, if you guys are, you guys are such detectives." I'm like, "Yeah, we knew something was wrong." I'm like, Brian was here. He opened Sunday. He knew something was wrong. It's really Brian who discovered it. And he's like, "Well, if you guys think you know everything, where do you think the cameras are?" So I go right to the section where things have been getting stolen from. And I'm like, "It's right. It's got to be there." They had it over the fucking register.
Oh.
They had it over the register because they thought we were giving away. We were just giving them all that shit. And
Oh.
Brian quit on the spot. He's like, "That's it. I'm
Good for
done."
him.
And Brian was like 18, 19. Brian quit on the spot. He's like, I'm done. If you don't trust me, fuck you. And I said, well, I've already put in my notice, so I don't really need to stay, so you can both fuck off. And Barbara said, I'm really unhappy about this. I have a manager who put in their notice, and you put a camera over the register that exact same week. Do you have any idea what this looks like? And I said, I have nothing but certificates for the last year in my office of that register not being over or above 1 penny. And you put a fucking camera over my register? Well,
Yeah.
I thought that that's where the shrink was coming from. I said, right, sure. I said, because I didn't have a history before I got to this location. I worked in the Freehold Mall store and I worked in the Princeton store where there was very little shrink. But all of a sudden I come here and I'm like, everybody take whatever the hell you want. I'm just going to give it all away. So
I think that if I owned a business, though, that I would have cameras. I would have cameras like above the register and through the store, though. Like
they didn't have them anywhere else. They just put it above the register. And I was so
that's
pissed.
shady.
I was like, we have been telling you now for the last year that there's the shrink in the store is obscene and we know what's being stolen. We know what's walking out of here. You guys don't care. I put in my notice and you put a camera over the register because you think me and my team are fucking giving shit away. You can piss off. So Brian quit on the spot. I quit on the spot. And I looked at both of them and I'm like, store's yours. Run it as you see fit today. I'm done. And
So you had like a JetBlue moment.
yeah, like in retro, I feel like I probably could have sued. I probably could have sued them for that because of the optics of that. I very much probably could have taken them to court for that. But I was 20
But Gen
and
X isn't like
I was just
happy.
yeah, no, I was just pissed off and so insulted. And because Brian looked at me and he goes, I'm done. And I said, if you want to walk out today, do it. I said, I don't blame you. I'm walking out today too. Go ahead. He's like, I'm fucking done. He goes, I'm moving to Florida anyway, so fuck this place. He's like, we've done
Does
nothing.
he live in Florida?
I don't know if he still does. He's like, I've done nothing but done nothing but be good employees. I said, I know. Every single employee here has been.
Yeah.
I said, and I agree. Fuck this place and fuck these two people.
I've
So
had some pretty interesting.
I just let Barbara and Charlie take.
coworkers.
I'm like, here you go. Your fucking store. Take it from here. You handle the shrink.
I've had some pretty interesting coworkers though, like that I definitely wouldn't trust. Like the one manager I told you about. He looked like Ronald McDonald, and we called him Red. But then after I started working there, like he would get so high, he'd be on the floor, and we'd be making the pizzas, ringing people out, cutting. He'd be passed out, and so he got the name Crackhead Red. And I don't think he's still alive to sue me for that, but like all of us called him that. And then we had the creepy manager that was like 30 that was like sending flowers to my friend Shelly, who was like 16, brought her a dozen roses.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. She didn't fall for it.
That's
oh my God.
God, that's so gross.
So Shelly is very interesting. I got her the job there, and I remember the first day she looked at me and said, "How do you spell salad?" And I was like, hell, yeah. But she was fun. Like we would put our aprons on like a cape and jump up on the counter and run around the store. Like there is never a dull moment. I will tell you that.
Nothing makes a job likable like that, like fun coworkers. And when you have fun, and I had fun coworkers at Spencer's, and I had fun coworkers at Musicland. And Musicland was before I had that other. The other place was an FYE, which used to be Record Towns, and then FYE bought them out, and so it was a Record Town. I worked there, and then it became an FYE later. But the Musicland store, I loved working there. I loved that we could. At the time, you could listen to whatever CDs you wanted to. You could listen to anything you wanted. There was no playlist. You could put on whatever music you wanted. So that's what we did. And it was fun for me too because, when people would come in and they do that thing where they go into a record store and they're like, okay, I'm looking for a song. You're like, all right. Well, I don't know who sings it. Okay. But it goes like this. All right. But it'd be totally wrong. Like it'd be totally, I'm like, what is that? Can you give me a chorus? Can you give me something? I need something to go on here other than like the first line, because that does not help me. But when we could nail it for them, we'll be like, oh, I got it. It's this. This is exactly what you're looking for. The thing is when you're working in a record store is that back then we didn't have listening stations. You had to buy the whole damn CD for one song. The amount of CDs I personally own that I have 2 songs on that I like is outrageous because everything else is garbage. There's 2 songs on it that are good.
In hindsight, we
Here's
should
my
have just
18
got
bucks.
the single. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
only had certain cassette singles of certain things, and only the cassette singles of really popular songs, like it's
Right.
usually like the top 10 songs. So if you liked a deep cut of an album because you'd heard it at a friend's house, you heard it somewhere, and you bought the album, you're like, oh God, the rest of this album sucks. I just spent $18 on it.
I
But
remember flipping through a book of CDs while I would drive,
yeah,
and, like, I should have been looking at the road. I never had an accident doing it, but I'm glad we don't still do that because I literally had, like, a giant book. You would flip pages, and there was, like,
I,
4
s-
CDs on each page.
yeah, I still have that book. It's down in my garage somewhere.
That's awesome.
It's down in my garage somewhere. And then
I
I have random CDs that from when we used to burn them. I have those laying around the place too.
I'm so sad. We had a hurricane about, I guess it's been 2 years ago, and I had over 1,000 CDs that I kept saying I was just gonna, like, upload or do, like, some of it stuff I'm
Yeah.
not used to
But
finding,
we never did.
and it got flooded, and it was in a plastic Tupperware, so I was like, "Oh, it'll be fine," and I go in there and I open the lid and the whole thing was filled with water, so I threw them all away. I know that was so much money. I know it
That's
was.
it's so much money and it's just heartbreaking. You're like, "Oh."
Well, it was like the memories, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, like, even looking at the sleeves of them just made me laugh, like,
Oh, yeah.
you open them up and read the
I loved
lyrics and
I loved album art. I liked new release day because, we got the stock in the day before and we always had it ready to go in the back room for that morning, but I always liked looking at the new releases. I love looking at the album cover, I like looking at the art and we'd get the displays for what we were promoting in our
I
we had
love
2
it.
windows that we would put displays up for. Like, I loved stuff like that, and it was great working at a record store anyway because half of us were all in bands, so we could work our schedules where if somebody wasn't gigging out, the other one could take that shift or, because as a manager, you have to work at least one 12-hour day. So I usually did that during the week. And then you had to work a Saturday. You had to work a Friday and a Saturday. So
Were you in a band before?
I would work till close on Friday and then I would work all day Saturday, like an 9 to 5. And then I would play out Saturday night. And then if I was writing the schedule, I would keep myself off the schedule for Sunday so I could fucking recuperate, and then I'd be back on again on Monday. And my friend did the same thing where he'd be like, "Oh, my band's playing the entire weekend, but I can't take the weekend off. Can we juggle?" Like we would just kind of do that for each other because we knew it was just like all of us are playing somewhere at some point in time.
So, were you in a band before you worked at a record store, or did you decide to work at a record store because you were in a band?
No, I was in a band before I worked at a record store.
Cool. I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, and
That's
then,
cool.
between those 2 plays, between Spencer's and the record store, I worked at a hardware store, which I was in high school when I worked I was in high school when I worked at the hardware store. I was in high school when I
Oh,
worked
did
at
all the
Spencer's, but
dads try to
it was
school you?
God, it was I could never understand why people needed to be in the hardware store at 6:30 in the morning to get a fucking screw, but as an adult, I get it, it's contractors, they're going to work, but as a kid, you're like, "Why
Yeah.
the fuck do you need a screw at 7:30 in the morning? Why do you need
Yeah.
this?" And it would be like they'd come in and I was the cashier, so they'd be like, "Where I need a 3/8 carriage bolt," and I'd be like, "I don't know where that is." "How come you don't know anything? Do you not even wanna work?" "I'm literally at work right now, sir. I don't go to the hardware section. There's a section called hardware. It's where all that shit is. Go ask that guy. He knows.
You know, they
I don't
left
know."
there like it still happens, but you know they left there like, "These youth today just don't wanna work." Because
Yeah.
I live in a retirement town, and they're always saying it, and I'm like, "My kids bust their ass." Like,
Yeah,
you
but
can't
they're
you
telling you that while you're at work. You're like, "I'm at work.
Yeah,
I'm
and
here."
these people
You
are
understand
retired.
you're at my place of work right now. Like, you get that, right? So, I got really good I really started to learn, lumber and like, all of these things, and I always liked working out in the spring and summer when we had the patio section open because there was a separate little checkout. It's not like Home
Yeah,
Depot has those now, but they're independent of the store. Like, you got to that
right.
outside thing by going it was still attached to inside the store, and it was like a little drive-up window. So you didn't really you were fully enclosed in your little hut, and we also got to leave earlier because the patio
Yeah.
shut down earlier than the store did, and all I did was I rang up people that were buying stuff outside, and then we did the propane refills too, and our code for the propane refill was 69 to propane. I have no idea why it was 69, but it was. So if
I
somebody
like
needed a
it.
propane refill, I would just pick up the phone and I would go 69 to propane, and then I'd send them over to the propane area, but
Somebody
that was the
some
code.
Gen
Somebody was
Xer came up with
cheeky.
that code. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, "Okay." But that's what it was.
Did you have any uniforms that you hated or anything you had to wear that
So
you hated?
I didn't Spencer's had no uniform, Musicland had no uniform, Recordtown had no uniform. The hardware store had, like, an orange vest or an orange jacket. You could
Oh,
either
yeah,
wear the vest or the jacket.
like the
Kinda
school
like ho
crossing guard look?
like Home Depot's got the aprons, like, we had I think the company was Central Hardware, and they had orange you could put a little vest on or a little
That's
orange
cool.
jacket, but we didn't have our dress code was just no jeans, but you could wear, like, corduroys, which were kinda jeans, but they were cords. You could wear those, but no jeans. Every place always had no jeans. I don't know why everybody hates jeans so much. Like, jeans are fine. I think you could be able to wear jeans
Yeah.
to work and be totally fine.
At the cookie company, I know we had to wear, like, the white collared shirts, and I was always, because it was at the mall, I always would
Yeah.
buy, like, a white polo shirt, and I would try my best to keep it crisp, like, "Don't touch me with a chocolate chip. This is, like, a
Oh,
$20
yeah.
shirt." Like, it was,
I'm
like,
wearing
expensive
white,
to me at the
nobody
time.
touch me. Nobody
Yeah.
touch me, because if you even look at me crooked, my shirt's gonna get dirty. Yeah,
Right, but I had to wear the name brand because I was at the mall, like, it was
yeah.
important to me. And then at Hungry Howie's, I know we just had, like, T-shirts we had to wear, and I remember when I quit working there, I got mad at my manager, and I had, like, a tank top under my T-shirt, so I
Uh-huh.
remember I took it off and tried to walk out the front door, like, with my tank top on, and I was like, "Here, take my uniform." It was just a T-shirt, but he blocked the door, so I walked out the back, and then I realized after I walked out the back door, I had to walk clear across the whole strip mall because it was, like, right in the middle
To
of the
get to
strip mall
to get to your
to get
car.
to my
Yeah.
car. And then he calls me, like, 2 days later, and he's like, "Are you coming in?" I'm like, "Don't you remember I quit?" And he says, "Don't come back for 2 weeks." And I'm like, "Bitch, I'm never coming back."
I'm never coming back. I don't know what part of I quit you don't get. I don't know how to
But
spell that out for you, but that means I'm not coming back ever.
but then I missed everybody, so I would just go order pizza just so I could go see my friends because I absolutely love them. Like, I
Yeah.
worked with the coolest people there. They were so fun.
I think that I love that both of us had jobs where we just worked with really cool people. Like
Yeah.
I had so at Spencer's, and I'm sure that you remember at Halloween we sold all those costumes.
Yeah.
And as an employee of Spencer's, we had to wear those costumes. We had to
That would
wear
be fun.
those. It was fun until the only ones that were left were the slutty ones. And so they're putting 17-year-old girls in slutty like I was in a French maid costume for several Halloweens, several times. During that season I was wearing a French maid costume, and I remember I would never wear my own name tag when I was wearing that. See,
Yeah.
I used to choose, like, the nun costume, so it was really, really long. I'd go to the floor, and I could wear jeans underneath it, and nobody would know. So I would just I would wear shit like that, and we would my friend and I would always pick the long costumes because we were comfortable that way. So and she had to wear the French maid costume as well, and, obviously, they were different sizes because she was very tiny and I was not. I was average at that back then. I wish I were as fat now then as I thought I was then.
Don't
I
we
was not
all?
fat, but
Yeah.
so I had to wear this French maid costume, and every time I had to do that, I would not wear my name tags. I did not. I just dudes are gross, and we used to have in front of our store was the sunken part of the mall where people could sit. It had that little
Yeah.
relaxation area. So that was right in front of
Yeah.
our store, and dudes would just sit there and like stare into the store. So I was wearing that costume, and I had a name tag on, and I think it was Melissa's who was the manager, but she wasn't working, and I had her tag on, and somebody called the store, and my friend Jeff answered, and the guy said, "Can I talk to Lisa?" And he said, "There's nobody here by that name." And he said, "Well, who's wearing the French maid outfit?" And Jeff hung up. He hung up. He
Oh,
hung up on him, and he was like, "Don't call
those
back." And he
there is
hung up on
always the
him.
creeps.
And then what the guys did, so it was Jeff and I think Joe was working that night and Tim, I think there are 3 of them. They took boxes of things that we were selling, but they were that were, like, bigger products, and they started
Yeah.
stacking them. They stacked them in front of where you would come in the entrance, we had a counter that we had stuff in.
Oh,
They
so you
stacked
could
them.
kinda stand behind the
They
boxes?
stacked them on that counter so that people sitting out in that area could not look into the store and see us standing at the
Yeah.
counter in those costumes.
As a
Now
teenager, it was
now that shit would
definitely
be criminal.
creepy.
Yeah, and that shit
Yeah.
would be criminal now. There's no way in hell you could go into a store and then the mandate would be like, I don't care that they're 16, 17 years old. They need to wear the costumes so we can sell them.
Yeah, and it was, like, no stalking on social media, like, people stalked in real
Mm-mm.
life, like, I had went to Texas with my mom on vacation, and I came back, and my dad was like, "Hey, I hired one of your ex-boyfriends," and I was like,
Why did
"Who?"
you do that?
And he told me the name, and I'm like, "Dad, that's not my ex-boyfriend. I don't know who the hell that is. Like, I don't even know who it is." So I go in to be introduced to my supposed ex-boyfriend, and he's like, "Yeah, I used to work upstairs at the mall. I would look down at you at the cookie company all the time."
Gross. Oh,
And
gross.
yeah, like you, I felt invaded as a
Mhm.
teenager working all the time, and it
Mhm.
was just brushed under the table like, "Oh, they didn't mean it," or the wrecker service was the worst. I can't even tell you how bad that
Yeah.
was. Imagine being like 13, 14-year-old girl around a bunch of tow truck drivers all the time. It was
Yeah. It would that I'm very lucky that I had colleagues, my coworkers or my friends, and they were older, they were late teens, like they're 2 years-ish older than I am, or
yeah.
than I was at the time. But I'm lucky that first of all, I'm lucky that a guy answered the phone. Second, I'm lucky that they took action and were like trying to actively block
Yeah.
shit from
Their
like
mamas raised them
they
right.
were they were really protective of us. Like they were protective of me and they were
Good.
protective of Cindy and they were just really protective of us, which I very much appreciated because you don't get that at places now. You
I
really
did
don't.
I did have something that was kind of inappropriate, but I actually loved it. When I
Okay.
worked at the cookie company, this guy brought a rose and a balloon, and the balloon said, "Just because." And, like, I was working, and he just walked up to me and handed me and
Yeah.
then there was a card, and I opened it up, and it said, "Just in case," and it had his phone number. And he just, like,
Just
handed
in
it to
case
me and
what,
walked
sir?
off. Yeah. Well, I was actually intrigued. I called him. We had coffee at the mall a couple times. I wasn't in love with him. I like it stuck with coffee, but the fact that he had the balls to do something like that, I actually thought that was different than the typical guys that were hitting on you,
Yeah.
like he put some effort in.
I had somebody who it was during I think it was during Christmas because we were really, really busy and there was always a lot of us working during a shift. And I was in the back, I was on a break, and I came back up to the register and there was like a little stuffed bear that we sold and like a little, the fake flowers that we sold. And it had a little thing and
Yeah.
the guy's name was Kevin. And one of my coworkers handed it to me and she goes, some guy just bought this for you and said it was for you and to call him and
So
here's
it's
his
the same
number.
thing.
But I
Did
looked
you
at her and
call him?
no, because I looked at it was Debbie who handed it to me, and I'm like, "What did he look like?" And she goes
Oh,
for those of you who can't see, I'm doing the L on my forehead. She's like
loser.
she's like, "I would not recommend that you call him." And I was like, "All right, done." And I never did. I didn't
Gotcha.
because I don't you don't look, you don't know, and I had known Debbie, Debbie and I had hung out, we were good friends, so this
Yeah.
wasn't like just I've known her for a week at my job, and she was like, "I think he's cute, so I'm gonna keep him for me, and I'm gonna keep the phone." Or no, she was like, "I wouldn't call," she goes, "I think the gesture's really sweet, but I would not call him." And I was
I
like,
think
"Okay,
I was
noted."
that romantic that, like I've watched too many videos, like, like hold the radio above your head in the
Yeah.
rain. So I just thought that was like a really nice
I think
gesture.
that's sweet that you look at that and think romantic, and I look at that and I go and I look at that and I go, "Oh god, I'm gonna end up at the bottom of the lake somewhere. Oh god.
It's
Okay. Nope."
10 red flags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like now at the time when I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, that's sweet," but then my next reaction was, "Debbie, did you?" She goes, "Yeah, he bought it from me." And I'm like, "And?" And she goes, "I wouldn't call him. Don't call him. I would not I would highly recommend that you don't call him." I was like, "All right,
Oh,
done."
poor dude. Yeah.
I
I at
mean,
least called mine, but
he
there
he took it
it
he
just
took his
wasn't
shot, but
sparks.
I also don't wanna feel obligated either.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that it's that that
100%.
it's that piece of, well, I don't wanna feel obligated to you because you did this nice gesture and it's really sweet and I, appreciate you did it, but now I feel like I'm obligated to call you and meet you, and if you wanna meet me, come back into the store under those circumstances so I can meet you and we can talk, and then I'll decide then and there, right? He never came back, so,
Yeah.
he didn't come back in after that. He should have. He could have because it'd have been like, "Bitch, why didn't you call me?" And I would have been like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about." Like, I totally would have
I
been like, "I don't know what you're talking about," because
I
I'm an
don't think I
asshole.
ever dated any coworkers either. I don't think I went on a
No, I
date
didn't
with
either.
one of them, but he was 6'7", and we just went on one date to the movies, and when I went to go leave, like, even to do, like, a little pet kiss or kiss on the cheek, it would have been
Yeah.
awkward, and I
Yeah.
realized it at the end of that date, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't think this is gonna work."
Yeah,
And,
I'm not feeling this.
so we totally just worked together, and he was adorable, don't get me wrong, it just I don't know, it just didn't feel right, but the next day I saw him driving on the road with, like, the most beautiful girl in the car, and I was like, "Was he already dating her?"
Yeah.
Like,
Like, you're at one point, you're like, "Wait a minute." Yeah. No, I
but I
never
was
dated
happy
anybody.
for him.
I
He
never
was a
dated a
nice dude.
coworker. Yeah. I didn't date
I don't
coworkers.
think I ever did.
I knew better than that. I was like, "Ah, that
You
leads
don't
to
shit where
terrible
you eat.
things." Nope. I'm like, that's a real bad idea. We don't do that."
Yeah. I remember telling my husband.
I am still friends with, I'm still friends with Jeff. We're still really good friends. And he's still pretty much exactly the same way he was when we worked at Spencer's. He's just it's always fun. He was always happy. He was always in a good mood. He's just happy go lucky. And he's still like that today.
I still have some of the same friends from back then too. It's just salt of the earth people. But what I was gonna say is I told my husband if he ever drove one of the tow trucks, because his best friend worked for my dad, that if he drove one of them, that I would break up with him immediately. And I never let him even pick up a side gig or do any of that. I was like, I will never in my life date a tow truck driver. You pull one car and we're done.
Yeah.
And my dad would try, like, "Don't you wanna just get some part-time or work a couple nights?" And I was like, "No,
No,
no."
no, absolutely not.
Yeah. That was a hard, fast rule. So, yeah, no dating,
Yeah.
especially not your teenage jobs.
No.
And I feel like did you think that, like, whenever you would go buy clothes, because even, like, when I started doing the professional clothes,
Mhm.
all the stores were like I think it was called, like, Charlotte Russe, or there was a store because I was tiny back then called 579 where I'd buy, like,
Yep.
all the size
We
0
had
clothes,
Yeah, we had
but
579 in Petite Street, and that's where my mom shopped because she was tiny.
it was like we all looked like little corporate going to the office thing when we would dress up, like shoulder pads and the little tiny heels and, I don't
I
know, the wave hair.
so at Spencer's, I used to wear a lot of at the time, they had like sweater dresses were in style, and I remember I wore a lot of those because I could wear them, they were comfortable, they were long, and I could wear them with boots, so it was
Oh,
comfortable.
that's cute. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was in Florida, that wasn't an option.
I wore a lot of that, or I wore a lot of, they were black jeans, but they didn't look like jeans because they were really dark, so you couldn't really tell that they were jeans, and it
Yeah.
was always my subtle way of trying to wear jeans. So I would wear black jeans with, like, a dark like, a long black blazer over top and a tank top or T-shirt. What I would usually wear is a tour shirt. I would wear, like, a concert shirt, and then I would throw that blazer over it, and then I'd wear a pair of boots. Every now and then, I'd wear, like, a skirt because I was little. I could wear
Yeah.
skirts and I could wear skirts and heels and be comfortable all day. I mean, I remember working at the record store, and I'd wear skirts and 4 or 5 inch heels all damn day and be totally fine. Now I put on a pair of heels, and 3 seconds later, I'm like, "Ow, ow, 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 ow."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I still don't like heels,
I don't either.
even as an adult.
They hurt now, because I'm heavier, I'm bigger than I was when I was 18, so now it's like I'm shoving all this weight into these heels, and my feet are like, bitch, no." And I just they do not work.
I think it's just my balance about, I don't know, 10 minutes in, I feel like I'm walking like an injured baby lamb.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I had a pair that I put on, and I was just trying them on in my house to see if they still fit me, and, Lord, I had them on for 3 seconds, and my feet were like, "Absolutely not. What the hell do you think you're trying to
Oh.
do?" I was like, "Okay, now we know."
Feel like I know this episode's kinda going a little bit long, but it was so fun talking about jobs, and I feel like everybody's worked at, like, a record store or pizza place. I'm interested, what other people in our group say that they did, but,
Yeah. We wanna hear your
I
jobs,
just
what your favorite, your worst, your most fun when you were a
yeah,
teenager,
and, like
not as an adult. We wanna hear your first, your first couple of jobs.
yeah, and just thinking about how little money we made and the responsibilities that were given to us, like, you'd be 15 years old and they're like, "You're closing, here's a key,
Yeah,
leave at
here's the key.
midnight,"
What? Okay.
walk in the parking lot of the mall by yourself while you leave. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't do that.
And it
We always had because we had to make a bank
well, we
deposit at
walked each
night,
other.
so we always
Yeah.
had people, but it was also learning where to park. Because remember you'd park
Yeah.
near where your store was, but then you realize that, "No, we go to the bank afterwards, so we park on this side because the bank is over here by the food court," so that's where we always parked. So you kinda also learn where to park too.
So I have one more question. Did you have any coworkers or bosses that you just absolutely hated?
Not at
Not in
Spencer's,
those jobs?
not at Musicland, not at Record Town. I mean, yeah, I had that terrible experience at that one Record Town location, but that was not a
Yeah.
direct result of my it wasn't even a direct result of my DM. I liked my DM. No, it in my teenage jobs, I did not, and I don't know if that's because as a teenager, you can kind of blow stuff off and just be like, "I don't really care. This isn't
Yeah.
gonna be my
I'll just
career,
go
so I
get
don't give a
another
fuck."
minimum wage
Yeah,
job. Yeah.
I think it might have been part and parcel for that, but I also think that in those jobs, people didn't really behave the way they do now. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not articulating that right, but in those 3 jobs, no, I did not have anybody that I particularly hated or did not get along with. I got along with everybody that I worked with, had a really fun time, I made really good friends. Oddly enough, it
I
wasn't until I
think
got
I
into the
liked
corporate world that I started to hate people.
Yeah, absolutely. As a professional, I've worked with many assholes, but,
Yeah,
yeah, I think the only one that really made me mad was Dave, the one that fired me, and I
yeah.
think that was more an ego thing for me.
Well,
Plus,
sure it
I
is.
worked with Kelly, and that was like, who doesn't wanna work with your best friend and laugh all the time? Like,
Yeah,
it was just fun people watching at the mall, which is gonna be part of our next episode. But, yeah, I think Dave was the only one that really ticked me off, so I hope he's
yeah.
still delivering coffee. I really do.
I hope he is too. I hope he is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. And let us know about your first jobs. I'm going to ask in the group on Facebook.
Yeah. We wanna know your favorite job, your first job, and if you hated anybody that you worked with in those jobs where we had no
Yeah, call
HR and
them out.
we had no HR, we had no emotional support, but we just had workplace
And
hazards and good
actually,
friends.
so Kelly and I will joke around and talk about people we knew growing up, and I can find just about anybody. So if anybody wants to track down any of their old bosses and tell them they're an asshole, I'll help you find them because it's kind of fun.
I don't remember anybody's last names. Like, I could tell you
Me
everybody that I work with
either.
at Spencer's, but if I'm not still friends with them, I cannot tell you their last names, like because 'cause they're not that they weren't that
Same,
important to me,
same.
to be fair.
All right. All right. Until next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.